real stories of werewolves, of Dogman from history, from your emails, illustrated and animated with the democratizing magic of machine learning AI. Welcome to Scary Stories.
The Wolfman was a hippie. Dear Scary Stories NYC. I have to tell you the stories my late Uncle Ned used to tell me. They're all about what sure sounded like the Midwestern Dogman to me, but they're not your typical Dogman stories. Uncle Ned wasn't really my uncle exactly. He was my grandfather's uncle, which I guess makes him my great-granduncle. By the time I knew him, he was already an old man with weathered skin and long gray hair that he still wore in a ponytail. He'd sit on the porch swing at my family gatherings, nursing a beer and staring off at nothing, while everyone else mingled. I was always drawn to him, maybe because no one else seemed to want to talk to Crazy Uncle Ned. That's what the family called him behind his back. Crazy Uncle Ned, who spent most of the 70s finding himself in some hippie commune out in Wisconsin. Crazy Uncle Ned, who claimed he'd seen things that couldn't possibly be seen. You can't believe half of what comes out of his mouth, my father would tell me. Too many drugs back in the day. Well, maybe that was true. I can't say for certain what Uncle Ned experienced and what he imagined. All I know is that when he'd tell me the stories of his youth, particularly those from the summer of 1971, his eyes would get this clarity to them that made me sort of wonder. Of all his wild tales, the ones that stuck with me the most were the ones about the creature he called the Dogman. I've spent years researching cryptid sightings since then, and what he described matches accounts of the Michigan Dogman almost perfectly, except that Uncle Ned's Dogman was not a menacing beast lurking in the shadows. No, according to him, the Dogman lived among them, became part of their strange little family or tribe for one summer, and then disappeared back into legend. I'm an old man myself now, and I find myself thinking more and more about those stories. I've never told them to any strangers before. Maybe I was afraid people would call me crazy too. But now, well, I don't much care what people think anymore, and these stories deserve to be told, whether they're true or not. The way Uncle Ned told it, he arrived at the Sunflower family commune on a rainy day in spring of 1971. He'd hitched a ride with a trucker headed north from Chicago, who dropped him off at the nearest town. From there, he had to walk 5 miles down an old logging road to find the place. It wasn't what you'd expect, he told me once. Not some grand hippie palace. Just a collection of ramshackle cabins and tents and one big farmhouse that had seen better days. But the land, here his eyes would always light up, the land was beautiful. Thick forest, a stream running through it, wildflower meadows, like stepping into another world. The commune had about 20 regular members, although people came and went frequently. Uncle Ned would mention names like Earth Mother Willow, who supposedly ran the place, Starman, who built intricate wooden sculptures, Rainbow, who tended the vegetable gardens, and Hawk, a Vietnam vet who rarely spoke but played haunting melodies on his flute late at night. My first night there, Uncle Ned would say, leaning in close as if someone might overhear, "I heard it. A howl that didn't sound like any wolf or coyote. Sounded too human somehow, but not human either." He claimed he sat bolt upright in his sleeping bag, heart racing, while all the hippies kept sleeping peacefully. The next morning, when he mentioned it over breakfast, the others exchanged looks. He was told that's their friend in the woods, and that he wouldn't be dangerous. Uncle Ned said no one would elaborate, changing the subject whenever he asked. But he noticed little things in those first few days. Extra food being set aside, strange tracks in the mud that were quickly brushed away, whispered conversations that stopped when he approached. They were protecting something, he'd say, or someone, and I was the outsider that they didn't trust yet. It was about 2 weeks after his arrival, during what the commune called their gratitude feast, a monthly celebration under the full moon. Uncle Ned described tables laden with vegetarian food, homegrown wine flowing freely, drums beating as people danced around the bonfire. I had plenty to drink, and maybe I'd taken something else too, we all had, but what I saw, here he would pause, as if still trying to make sense of it decades later. What I saw was not any hallucination. According to Uncle Ned, the drumming suddenly stopped. The dancers parted as a figure emerged from the tree line at the edge of the clearing. It walked on two legs like a man, he'd say, his voice dropping to nearly a whisper. But it wasn't a man. 8, maybe 9 feet tall, covered in thick dark fur. A wolf's head with a snout full of teeth that gleamed in the firelight. But its eyes were knowing, aware, and there was someone home behind those eyes. The creature had massive, powerful arms that hung at its sides, ending in what looked like hands but with long, sharp claws instead of fingernails. Its legs were bent backward at the knee like a wolf's, but it stood perfectly balanced on 2 feet. Its chest was broad and deep, its shoulders impossibly wide. Uncle Ned claimed he nearly ran right then, certain he was about to witness a massacre. But then, Earth Mother Willow approached the beast, arms outstretched, and embraced it like an old friend. Brother Wolf, she called it. You've come to join our celebration. The others weren't afraid either. Some approached to touch its fur or to offer food. A young woman even reached up to scratch it behind its pointed ears, causing the creature to make a rumbling sound almost like a purr. Uncle Ned sat frozen, unable to process what he was seeing. Later that night, as the celebration continued, Starman supposedly sat behind Uncle Ned and explained. The creature, which they alternately called Brother Wolf or simply their friend, had appeared at the commune boundary the previous autumn, badly injured and near death. Starman said they'd nursed it back to health, Uncle Ned told me, and eventually they learned bits of its story through a kind of charade game they played. It had been captured somewhere down south, Mexico maybe or further, and forced to fight humans in some kind of sick underground arena, like Fight Club or dog fighting, but with whatever the Dogman was. Someone had helped it escape, Starman explained, and it had wandered northward for months before finding their commune. Why it stayed, no one knew for certain. Maybe it sensed they wouldn't harm it. Maybe it was just tired of running. The crazy thing was, by the end of that night, Uncle Ned claimed his fear had given way to fascination. The creature moved among them almost gently, mindful of its size and strength. It seemed to enjoy the music, swaying slightly to the drums. It watched the dancers with what Uncle Ned swore was amusement in its eyes. I had come to the commune looking for something different, he told me once, looking to expand my mind, to see the world in new ways. Well, I sure as hell formed new ways of thinking there in those woods. According to Uncle Ned, the commune leaders had learned to understand the Dogman's routines and preferences over the months he'd been with them. The creature apparently made its home in a cave about a mile from the main farmhouse. Uncle Ned described it as more of a den, with a narrow entrance that widened into a larger chamber inside. He never went there himself. The creature seemed to value its privacy, but he heard about it from the others who claimed to have been invited in. The Dogman's diet was something Uncle Ned found fascinating. Despite having the teeth and claws of a predator, it had adapted to the commune's vegetarian lifestyle. Uncle Ned recalled how the creature would eat enormous portions of beans, grains, and whatever vegetables were available, although it seemed to especially favor root vegetables like carrots and potatoes. Sometimes it would disappear into the forest for days and return with wild mushrooms that it would share with the commune. Communication with the Dogman was limited but effective from what Uncle Ned described. The creature couldn't speak, at least not in human language, but its expressive facial expressions and vocalizations are what the commune members gradually learned to interpret. Uncle Ned said the sounds it made ranged from deep rumbling growls to high-pitched whines. It recalled one sound in particular, a sort of a huffing bark that meant the creature was amused by something. Music seemed to fascinate the Dogman. Uncle Ned remembered how it would sit for hours listening to people play guitar or flute, but nothing captivated it as much as drumming. What stood out most in Uncle Ned's stories was the Dogman's unusual habit of carrying people on its shoulders. This wasn't something it did right away with newcomers, but only with those it trusted. The creature would crouch down, tap its shoulders, and wait for someone to climb aboard. Then it would rise to its full height and run through the forest or meadows, carrying its passenger with surprising gentleness. Uncle Ned described this as a sign of acceptance into the creature's trust circle, and also as a form of play that the Dogman seemed to genuinely enjoy. Despite its fearsome appearance, Uncle Ned insisted that the creature displayed a range of emotions that were unmistakably human-like. It showed curiosity about new objects, satisfaction after a good meal, irritation when pestered too much, and something like melancholy on rainy days when it would stare out at the forest for hours. Uncle Ned was particularly struck by its apparent sense of humor, the way it would sometimes deliberately startle people and then make that huffing bark sound, as if laughing at their reaction. Uncle Ned's relationship with the Dogman didn't develop overnight. For weeks after his first encounter with the creature, there was mutual wariness. Uncle Ned admitted that he would tense up whenever the Dogman appeared, and the creature seemed to sense this, keeping its distance and watching him with those intelligent eyes. The turning point came during a workday when the commune was building a new storage shed. Uncle Ned was struggling to lift a heavy beam into place when suddenly the weight lessened. He looked up to find the Dogman on the other end, effortlessly holding it steady. They worked together for hours after that, with the creature's strength making the job go much faster than anyone could have anticipated. After that day, Uncle Ned noticed a shift. The Dogman would acknowledge his presence with a slight nod when entering a room. It would sometimes sit near him during meals or music circles. Uncle Ned began leaving small offerings of food near the edge of the forest, where the creature often emerged, and each morning the food would be gone. The watershed moment in their friendship came when Uncle Ned was collecting firewood alone in the forest. He lost his footing on a steep slope and tumbled down, twisting his ankle. Unable to walk in too far from the commune to call for help, he was preparing to crawl back when a shadow fell over him. The Dogman had found him somehow, and without hesitation scooped him up and carried him back to the farmhouse. This was the first time Uncle Ned experienced riding on the creature's shoulders, something he described as simultaneously terrifying and exhilarating. The Dogman moved through the forest with incredible speed and agility, barely disturbing the undergrowth despite its size. Uncle Ned recalled the sensation of the wind in his hair, the powerful muscles moving beneath him, and the strange feeling of safety despite being so high off the ground in the grasp of what most would consider a monster. After this incident, Uncle Ned was accepted into the creature's inner circle. He was allowed to approach when others weren't, to sit quietly with it under the stars, to offer food directly from his hand. He believed they developed a form of silent communication, not mind reading, but an intuitive understanding based on subtle cues and shared experiences. What struck Uncle Ned most was how these interactions changed his perception of what it meant to be a person. The Dogman might not have been human, but in its actions and apparent emotions, it displayed a depth of awareness that Uncle Ned couldn't dismiss as mere animal instinct. There was someone in there, he insisted. Someone, some person, who chose to trust him despite whatever humans had done to it in the past. The commune existed in a state of uneasy tolerance with the surrounding communities. Local authorities generally left them alone, despite rumors of drug use and unconventional lifestyles. That changed midsummer, when a neighboring farmer accused the commune of stealing his chickens. According to Uncle Ned, the accusation was false. The commune was strictly vegetarian, but it gave the county sheriff an excuse to investigate. Uncle Ned recalled the day vividly. It was mid-afternoon when someone spotted police vehicles approaching down the long driveway. There were at least 3 patrol cars and a larger van, carrying what looked like a full squad of officers. The commune members scattered, some hiding contraband, others gathering in the main house to present a unified front. The Dogman had been napping in the shade of a large oak tree at the edge of a clearing. Uncle Ned remembered someone rushing to wake it, urging it to flee into the forest for safety. But instead of running, the creature rose to its full height and watched as the vehicles parked and the officers began to disembark. What happened next became one of Uncle Ned's most frequently told stories. As the police approached the main house, weapons visible if not drawn, the Dogman stepped out from the tree line. Uncle Ned described how it moved with deliberate slowness at first, drawing all attention to itself. Then, it stood upright at its full height, towering over even the tallest officers. It spread its massive arms wide, and it let out a howl that Uncle Ned swore could be heard for miles. The effect was immediate. Some officers froze in place. Others stumbled backward toward their vehicles. One allegedly dropped his weapon. The Dogman took a single step forward, now displaying its impressive teeth in what Uncle Ned called the most terrifying smile you could ever imagine. The sheriff, a man supposedly known for his toughness, shouted something about a bear or wolf, but he was already retreating to his car. Within moments, the entire police force was scrambling back into their vehicles. Uncle Ned recalled the sound of tires spinning in dirt as they reversed down the driveway at dangerous speeds, leaving clouds of dust in their wake. After the police fled, the Dogman lowered its arms and turned toward the gathered commune members. Uncle Ned swore that the creature made that huffing bark sound, clearly amused by what he had just done. Someone threw their arms around this massive form in gratitude, and soon the others joined in a celebration of their protector. The police never returned to the commune, at least not while Uncle Ned was there. Word spread quickly in the surrounding area about a monster, or a devil beast, guarding the Hippie settlement. Some of the locals became even more suspicious of the commune, but others began leaving offerings at the edge of the property. Fresh vegetables, homemade bread, even the occasional bottle of wine, seemingly paying tribute to keep the creatures satisfied and peaceful. Uncle Ned believed this incident changed something in the Dogman as well. It seemed more confident afterward, more integrated into commune life. He began joining them for meals more regularly, sitting around the fire at night, just generally becoming a better friend. It had truly become one of them, a guardian figure that transformed the commune's place in the wider community. Uncle Ned told me that as summer gave way to fall, subtle changes began to appear in the Dogman's behavior. The creature grew more restless as the days shortened and the temperatures dropped. It would spend longer periods away from the commune, sometimes disappearing for days before returning. When present, it often stood at the forest edge, nose lifted to the wind, as if sensing something calling from the distance. The commune members noticed these changes too. According to Uncle Ned, they had seen similar behavior the previous autumn, when the creature first arrived, but in reverse. It had been injured then, seeking sanctuary. Now it appeared strong, healthy, and increasingly drawn to the wilderness. One morning in early October, after the first frost had silvered the meadow grass, Uncle Ned woke to find the Dogman gone. This wasn't unusual in itself, but when the creature hadn't returned after 3 days, some of the commune members ventured to its cave. They found it empty, with no sign the Dogman intended to return. Its few possessions, blankets the commune had provided, some smooth stones it had collected, a wooden flute someone had carved for it, were neatly arranged in what Uncle Ned interpreted as a gesture of farewell. They found tracks leading northward. Deep impressions in the soft forest floor that told a clear story. The Dogman had left, moving with purpose toward the deeper wilderness of the northern territories. Uncle Ned recalled following these tracks for several miles with a few of the others before they reached a fast-flowing river. On the other side, no tracks continued. The Dogman had crossed over, literally and figuratively, back into the realm of legend. He's a cool fella, no one's nicer than him. Of course, I'm talking about our own Godzilla Tim. Please join me in thanking one of our oldest and most beloved executive producers, Godzilla Tim Walker. Godzilla Tim supports us at the highest level, and for the longest time, so you get to see our over 30 hours of archived members-only Dogman stories that the public never gets to see or hear. If you're interested in checking out those 30 hours of stories, like the great and powerful Godzilla Tim Walker, then pay attention to what this next little guy has to say. Oh, Henry. Thanks, Biggie. And thanks to all of you for watching this far. If you liked it, please click like. If you'd like to see more of our work, please subscribe. And also click that bell icon if you'd like to be notified when we put out a new episode. To become an executive producer, you can donate to us through the thanks button under each of our videos or through our paypal.me/PeterBernard209 page. To receive cool perks like secret uncensored Dogman episodes far too wild to ever run on this channel, you can become a YouTube channel member by clicking the join button, or join our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com. Joining either at the $3 a month level or above gets you access to our over 25 hours of secret uncensored Dogman stories available nowhere else. Do you have a scary story about Dogman or some other kind of high strangeness that happened to you? Let us know by emailing us at scarystoriesnyc@gmail.com or by leaving us a voicemail message at 804-LA-SCARY. You may need to call back on that when it cuts off after I think 3 minutes. And if you don't want to do any of that stuff, thank you for simply watching to the end. Good night, and have a scary tomorrow.
Come back for more scary stories.